Lecture 8, Music is Zeal, Medieval, Renaissance, and Baroque, 500 to 1750. In these lectures, we have considered prehistoric musical instruments, the musical expressions of animals, and early notated music. We have also analyzed the question, why music, and musically mapped our places within the Commonwealth and wider ecoregion. Following our common theme, rhythm and roots, we now turn our attention to music in European history, beginning in the Middle Ages. This tradition is alternately called classical music or Western art music. Specifically, we are exploring this tradition's vocal music as an expression of religious and spiritual zeal. Etymologically, zeal is drawn from the Greek zelos, referring to ardor, emulation, and alternately, jealousy. Considered from where we stand in these lectures, it was zealous musics that inspired the earliest classical music in history, and zeal continues to inspire musical expression today. During the early medieval period, 500 to 800 AD, as the Roman Empire dissolved, Western Europe became more impoverished and communities more fragmented, and much ancient culture was lost. With the series of crises ending the empire, the Catholic Church, which had been a cultural influence in the empire, stepped in to maintain government institutions. As an example, as Rome was about to be sacked in 452, Pope Leo I walked out to meet their leader, Attila the Hun, and persuaded him to turn back, saving many lives. Without a feasible government, the people in Europe increasingly looked to the church to take on secular roles. The earliest melodies to be recorded were Gregorian chants, simple, single-line, plain chant music, sung during Mass. Gregorian chant was named for Pope Gregory I, 590 to 604, who, similar with Leo before him, was beloved for protecting Rome, in his case from Lombard raiders. Gregorian chant standardized Christian ritual and utilized a modal system, a precursor to modern scales. Major scales correspond with the Ionian mode and minor with the Aeolian mode. The modes in early Gregorian chant were Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, and Mixolydian, as well as Hypodorian, Hypophrygian, Hypolydian, and Hypomixolydian. Gregorian chant was, at this point in history, taught by rote. Other chant traditions, including the Ambrosian in the city of Milan, and the Gallican used in parts of France, and Byzantine chant used in Byzantium, the parts of the Roman Empire that did not fall until 1453, as the Western European medieval period was concluding. During Charlemagne's reforms, about 800 to 1000 AD, notation was first developed in the form of neuma. Neuma refers to music writing predating the standardization of 5-line staff notation used today. The 4-line musical staff facilitated musicians notating relative pitches, which permits Gregorian chant to be performed today. However, since neuma notation does not generally indicate rhythm, articulation, or tempo, quite a bit of interpretation goes into modern performances. Hildegard of Bingen, 1098 to 1179, was a German Benedictine abbess, mystical writer, and music composer. Possibly the most famous plain chant composer, Hildegard's compositions are performed to this day by religious congregations, in classical concert halls, and by New Age artists who find something profound in her spirituality. Let's listen to a little bit of Hildegard's composition, O Virtus Sapiente, which translated from Latin is, O Wisdom's Energy. Okay, Note the Nume in the video if you click follow the link or if you're in class. Here's a translation of O Veritas Sapiente created by Nathaniel M. Campbell. O wisdom's energy, whirling, you encircle, and everything embrace. In the single way of life, 3 wings you have. One soars above into the heights. One from the earth exudes, and all about now flies the third. Praise be to you, as is your due, O wisdom. In the late high medieval period, 1000 to 1300, organum emerged as the earliest polyphony, which involved at its simplest 2 voices singing different chants which sounded good together, like a partner song, or singing the same chant beginning at different times, what we would call a round today. Round. Figures in Paris, the Notre Dame school, Léonin and Periton, created more and more complex polyphony, even writing music in 4 parts. And later in the Middle Ages, the French composer Guillaume de Machaut, 1300 to 1377, composed perhaps the first polyphonic mass, the Messe de Notre Dame, Mass of Our Lady, widely considered one of the greatest accomplishments of medieval music. And let's listen to a little bit of that. So that's the Kyrie. Medieval music laid the foundation for the music in the Renaissance, 1400 to 1600, which saw the high point of polyphony. Culturally, the Renaissance era saw the Protestant Reformation, splitting Christianity in Europe to a more familiar form to us today. The theology of the Reformers, as well as the Counter-Reformers, inspired much development in music. For Protestant churches, early Reformation music saw a decline in polyphony, which would have a big influence on music in Baroque, Classical, and Romantic eras. But in the Catholic parts of Europe, polyphony flourished. Josquin de Prez, around 1515, wrote Missa Pangue Lingua, based on the Gregorian chant Pangue Lingua, which is highly regarded for its expressive melodic setting of the text. Giovanni Palestrina's Missa Pape Marcelli, the Mass of Pope Marcellus, written about 1562, became a model for Counter-Reformation style. Legend suggests this setting of the Mass saved polyphony by demonstrating music could be complex, beautiful, and understandable. Later composers studied Palestrina's polyphonic style as a pedagogical model. Johann Fuchs' Gradus ad Parnassum, 1725, used Palestrina's music to teach species counterpoint in a step-by-step method. This treatise was used as a textbook by Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven, and other composers. We're going to listen to Kyrie, and again, Kyrie means Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy, from Palestrina's Missa Pape Marcelli. We'll listen to a little bit. Okay. In the English Renaissance, Thomas Tallis's Spem in Alium, written about 1570, was a 40-part motet written for 8 choirs with 5 voices each. In contrast, William Byrd's Mass for 4 voices, written about 1592 or 93, simplified polyphonic music and led to the modern, intimate musical expression that would be important in later centuries. These composers were Catholic but lived within an Anglican nation and were often forced to keep their religious convictions a secret. Tallis worked under both Catholic and Protestant monarchs, Henry VIII Edward VI, Mary I, and Elizabeth I. And Byrd wrote his mass settings in secret under Queen Elizabeth I. During the Baroque era, around 1600 to 1750, composers used elaborate ornamentation, increasingly wrote to contrast dynamics and texture, and developed new musical forms such as the opera and oratorio, with the oratorio being a religious musical work modeled on the opera, but with no costumes, props, scenery, or acting. Oratorios, like operas, employed recitatives, sung dialogue accompanied by simple basso continuo on harpsichord, arias, solos sung to emphasize emotional depth and character development, and choruses, ensemble songs. The Lutheran composer George Frederick Handel's Messiah, written 1741, is perhaps the most beloved oratorio performed frequently today in churches and concert halls, usually during the holiday season. Let's listen to a little bit of Handel's Hallelujah chorus from that oratorio, Messiah. Right? I'm sure you heard it. Another Lutheran composer, Johann Sebastian Bach, was a dominant musical figure in the Baroque era. To exemplify how he's relevant even today, in the 2008 film The Day the Earth Stood Still, which is based on the premise that an alien species has decided to exterminate humanity, after recording of Bach's Goldberg variations was played for the alien visitor, the beauty and complexity of Bach's music helped the alien see that, despite humanity's flaws, the Earth was worth saving from immediate destruction. We're going to listen to a little bit of Bach's Gloria and Et in Terris Pax, which translates as "and peace to earth of persons of goodwill," from his Mass in B minor. Glorious, isn't it? The zealous composers of Western history continue to unveil the depth of human devotion through elaborate beauty and expressive force. It may be that their compositions transcend dogma and time periods, engaging today's listeners in a conversation of thoughtful encounters with wonder, grief, joy, and awe. In our age, marked by diversions and division, music that reconnects people with the sacred might help us encounter beauty, meaning, order, and transcendence.